There.
And welcome to another edition of Corporate Underground. Today we've got Stephen Burmester, who not only is a cybersecurity expert, that's just on his side gig. In between that, he's a wannabe Italian. He wants to channel his Gordon Ramsay when he's cooking in the kitchen. He wants to go and live in Italy. He wants to ride the Giro Italia. He wants to be all things Italian. And at the moment, while we're stuck in COVID, that's not going to happen. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me. Great to see you guys. I hope you're all safe and well.
Well, we are. We know where you are. You're in Brisbane, so you're not. You're out walking the streets and getting suntans.
We are well and truly alive and able to walk around only within our own state.
It's a big state. Come on.
It is a big state. Yeah, I know.
So, Stephen,
Victoria-wise.
Stephen, first question for you. Tell us about your curry club that you've been running in Brisbane for years.
The infamous Curry Club, also known as KFC, Kingfisher Club, that stands for. So Kingfisher being the king of beers in India, the most popular beer. So about 13 years ago, a bunch of us went out to the rugby. It was the first rugby game here for the season in Brisbane. Of course, end of February, it's what you want to be doing, is going and sitting in the Brisbane sun to watch a rugby game. So we did that. There was a bunch of us who did that. And then after sitting there all afternoon in the western sun, rehydrating the whole time, we then decided that the best thing to do after the game was to head across the road and go to the local curry house that was over there, which thankfully was BYO, so we were able to partake over there and continue the afternoon. I mean, look, we had such a great time. It was such a great bunch of blokes that sort of came together. We decided that we should do it again. And that was 13 years ago. And we have done it now for 13 years, once a month. So once a month, we go to the same restaurant. We don't order, meals just literally appear. And it's just a great evening for a bunch of guys who come together. We've had a few people leave and join over the years. We've seen arrivals of new family members. We've seen separations. We've seen family members depart. So it's been great. It's a great bunch of blokes who come together for a good time.
How did it go? I mean, Brisbane did get a slight taste of lockdown. How did it go during that period?
We went virtual like everybody else.
Okay.
So we did Kingfisher Club Zoom edition. So that was we did a couple of those. And we still did curry. Yep. So everybody had to order in, and the idea was get your meal at a certain time. We had one of the guys who used to be with us regularly had moved back to the UK. So we even on zero notice we zoomed him in. And he joined as well, and it was interesting to watch him have to have his beer. It sort of must have been about 8 o'clock in the morning over there.
Yeah,
that must be a great way for you to stay connected to those people, right? It's a mini community. It's a tribe. It's all of those things where it doesn't need to be about work or anything other than just being around good people and finding ways that you can stay connected and support each other.
No, absolutely right. And I think it's really important, particularly, everyone always talks about, men's health and things like that. It's not just men, it's everybody, but particularly staying connected and having an avenue for people to come together. It's really good.
So, Stephen, you've had some pretty big roles across Australia, some really high pressured roles. How do you and your family, how do you unwind? How do you stay connected to your girls? How do you actually kick back? Besides having a good curry with some lads, what do you actually do?
So I like to do one of a few things. I love to go bike riding. I used to ride a lot, and now it's really just for social reasons. But it's good. It's actually where I get out and do my thinking. I love. You mentioned about Italy. I love food. I had a grand plan to go and do cooking school in Italy. But yeah, anything creative with food, you don't get a body like this eating lettuce leaves, so why not enjoy it and have good food? And I love building and renovating. I've renovated an old Queenslander house. My girls now, I've got two daughters who are this year, they turn 18 and 20. So they're basically, leading their own life. So it's lovely to see them whenever I can. It's anything that sort of keeps me active. I get bored very quickly. It's always best to stay active and keep doing things. And work is intense. It has been. It's been a lot of hours. A lot of crazy hours in some of the roles I've done. So it's always good to have an avenue to get out and do something completely different. And I think that's really why I love the bike riding, because when you're on a bike, you can't read anything, you can't you can't write anything, you can't be looking at your phone. And I don't wear headphones either. I really can't handle it when I see people doing that. You need that extra sense to be able to understand where all the cars are around you. So, to me, bike riding is my thinking time.
Okay, yeah. Brilliant.
There are some substantial projects in there. For those that don't know, which one do you think was probably one of the ones that maybe you enjoyed most, or maybe that tested you the most, that you can highlight so people can understand the type of things you've done?
Yeah, sure. So, a couple of really great, projects, initiatives, outcomes that I've worked on over the years. The first one was really the Queensland driver's license. So leading the design of Queensland's new and the first digital smart card driver's license in Australia. And that was really cool for a number of reasons. It taught me for the first time how technology and how digital technology can really change and create new business processes, and things that weren't possible before all of a sudden could be enabled through the use of that technology. It was an integration exercise in its own right. So, working on international smart card standards, spatial biometrics, PKI, even dealing with vendors and understanding how security devices, they get put into banknotes and credit cards and all those things work. So it was a great learning exercise, but it's great, when somebody says, well, what did you do on that? And you can say to any Queenslander, you can say, well, reach into your wallet and show me your driver's license. And you can say, well, we delivered that. That was an outcome that we were able to succeed and to actually make it real. So that was really good.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm from originally Queensland. I'm from Childers.
Yep.
I'm not sure you've ever been that
way. Oh yeah,
but,
I've been to Childers. Yep.
Yeah, but like when I started coming to Victoria, like the license before that, like people thought it was fake because it was just a laminated piece of cardboard.
The old laminated one, yeah.
It was a joke. So that leap, it wasn't just like the first; it was also a massive leap.
It was, yeah. Queensland at the time was definitely an older generation of license. Believe it or not, those old laminate ones were actually harder to forge than the plastic ones that they had in places like New South Wales and Victoria, just because of the materials.
I was going to say there's going to be a hell of a lot of 16, 17-year-olds that actually hate you because now they can't get into pubs and clubs.
Yeah.
So any hate mail, just send to Stephen.
But the issue was why it may be hard to forge when you came to Victoria and you're going to show your thing to get into a club here. They're like, "What is this laminate? Like, is this like?" If they hadn't seen it, they're like, "This can't be a genuine document." Like,
I can totally relate to that. I often would be down in Melbourne and I'd go out down there on a mate's boat down in Port Phillip. And of course, my boat license is a part of my driver's license up here in Queensland, and it's just literally a tiny little code on the back of it that says what I can do. And to have the sort of the Harbours and Marine guys down there in Victoria sort of looking at it, going, okay,
yeah.
So that was a really cool project and a great initiative to be a part of. But really the sort of big one for me has been around the national healthcare system. And work that I sort of did in that space. Again, how can technology create a better healthcare system and enable a better healthcare system for all participants? Because the healthcare industry is huge. It's measured as a percentage of GDP. We have an aging population. We ultimately need to come up with new ways to deliver more streamlined, personalised healthcare, and technology is a huge enabler for that. So that's, to me, yeah, healthcare IT is certainly something, and that's where I've gone back to most recently to work in. So a lot of people are critical of things like the National Healthcare Record. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's a really good starting point, and it's a really good set of capabilities that certainly, at a national level within Australia is there to be taken advantage of. And now what we're doing is starting to see more things being built, and the knowledge is in sharing all of that information.
It's funny, yeah, it's funny you say that, Stephen, because everyone sort of complains about their giving up their privacy, but they'll do it willingly on Facebook.
Do it on Facebook and Instagram, and
in exchange for looking at some pictures and mindless information, and then they'll go, well, I can't give up my personal health records. It might save my life, might give a doctor the ability to make a better diagnosis. So it's incredible.
And it's frustrating when we're probably dealing with the 1%ers or the 2%ers or something like that. And if you don't want to have that, you can opt out of the system, and you can go and do what we used to have to do in the old days, which is carry around all that paperwork in a manila folder. But if you are interested in and prepared to head down that path, it's why wouldn't you?
So what's one thing that
Sorry, just on that opt-in, opt-out. At least there is that option for that.
That's right.
Where Google can change their policy, and I've always wondered, because they say, you have to click accept, and you go, and what happens if you don't? There is no other option. You can't choose not to now accept what they're offering. Same with Apple and all that sort of stuff. It's like, if I no longer accept how Apple is going to run their devices, I have to no longer use their devices. It's kind of like
and they're probably not that motivated to negotiate new terms for you either, are they?
No, of course not. They couldn't
No, Tony's special. Tony's special. You don't understand, Steve. Tony's special. He can negotiate those.
Yeah, but he's also on the run. You can, because that's why you can't see his face. He's blurred out his face, so nobody can actually tell you who he is.
Never trust someone who's pixelated. It doesn't end well.
So, Steve, what's one thing that you worry about with the health records and the things that are going through at the moment? I mean, you were one of the people that helped set this up. It's been a few years since you've been there. Do you think it's got better or worse? Where do you see it going? And what do you worry about?
Look, it's definitely got better. What worries me? What worries me is, I guess if I put my security hat on, it's not so much here in Australia. It's not so much about, if information is, if the confidentiality is breached. So if records are lost, okay, what's the impact to me? And of course, it's different for person to person, but, they'll find out what medications I've been on. They might find out a few of my doctor's visits, something like that. So like any kind of decision around information security, it's about risk, right? So the risk for me, the impact of that occurring, or the impact to me is negligible. So what if that happens? What worries me and what keeps me awake is things like, the cyber attacks and ransomware attacks and things like that on healthcare facilities that actually stop those facilities from delivering healthcare. And a couple of examples, like down in Geelong at the end of 2019, all you've got to do is do a search for Barwon Health cyber attack, and literally having, and actually I've got a photo of it, the ambulance is parked up out the front of the hospital because they literally go into bypass. Now, bypass is a term used when, they can't take any more patients in because they're out of doctors, they're out of beds, they're out of things like that. But bypass is now something that can occur. It's effectively a denial of service on the provision of healthcare due to cyber attack. So, when these facilities get taken out and literally cannot perform their services to save life, that's actually what worries me. So that's the attack on availability. So in information security, we talk about confidentiality, availability, and integrity to a lesser degree. We'll get to that point, I think, where integrity is a concern as more and more devices and the Internet of Things, more and more things get turned on. The fiddling with integrity, and that's kind of where we start heading down the path of Natanz and nuclear centrifuges and things like that. What happens when you start fiddling with the values going in and out of those things?
So, for me, the last piece of this, where you've gone from a driver's license to health records and a Project X and a cybersecurity.
It's a crazy path, isn't it?
Well, but it's a linear mark. There's a linear mark from stopping from kids getting into nightclubs all the way to stopping kids from getting into nightclubs.
Getting their script.
So you've got to have seen a lot happen over your few years. You were looking after Asia, mainland China. There was a real rise in this coming, and we spoke about this before COVID. We actually, I wanted to get you down to Melbourne to actually do a demonstration. A talk about what was happening. A lot of the things that you said were going to happen have happened. It was a wave that was coming through.
That's right.
What do you think the next wave is going to be? Or is this wave? I know this wave isn't finished, but there's another. What's behind what is happening with so many holes in security working from people from home now? It's just open slather, isn't it?
Look, it is, and we coined a phrase. Literally, sat down with a colleague of mine at the start of COVID, and we said, one of the challenges, one of the first challenges that sort of COVID created and presented from a technology point of view was that, the trusted insider. So we always used to talk about the trusted insider and the trusted employee because we knew the machine they were using in the premise that they were using, and we kind of had these bricks and mortar concepts that helped us put perimeters and security controls in place. And all of a sudden, the trusted insider was now outside the organization. They were having to use applications that were never designed to be delivered outside of the premise, using untrusted devices, using unknown devices. All of a sudden, there's a great little comic that said, who led your digital transformation? Was it A, the CIO, B, the CTO, or C, COVID-19? And for a lot of organizations, COVID-19 led their digital transformation. And that's really good. But it's created challenges, and we are seeing those, coming home to roost now. The average time that an attacker is inside an organization, this is sort of the global average, is about 180 days before they get detected. And that's an average. The healthcare industry is actually, they're the winner of that category at the wrong end. They are well over 200 days for the average time to detect that incident response. So you can cause a lot of damage in that time, is the point I'm making. So where I'm getting to here is we are only now seeing those incidents starting to play out based upon things that happened back at the start of COVID last year, when all of a sudden COVID-related spam and all spam and all COVID-related malware, that was just the latest lipstick on the same pig. It was all the same malware that was being used, but it was COVID themed. Okay, first it was about the virus, then it was about access to government services. They just kept changing their message. 14,000% increase in that kind of spam we saw in sort of the first month or so. And so you put that many letters out in people's mailboxes, eventually people are going to start buying things, right? And that's what we're seeing now. So we are still, I believe, sort of rising in terms of the exposure of all of those things that happened. They're getting more complex. We've seen attack groups spend time literally improving their software during COVID. So they spent time enhancing the anti-detection capabilities of their malware, which means that 180 days could completely blow out in some instances. So we're going to see more of it. We're going to see more complexity. And we're also seeing, sort of without giving too much away about what we'll talk about when we catch up in a couple of weeks' time, but what we call double ransom. So it's no longer just pay us some money and we'll give you your files back. It's pay us some money, we'll give you your files back. Sure, they do that, and then they go and release the information publicly anyway. So it's a real dilemma that businesses and boards are finding themselves in. having paid the money, sure, you get the business back up and running, but then to be completely exposed and hung out to dry.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stephen. I really appreciated this week. We learned a lot. I'm really looking forward to seeing your cyber security talk coming up. That'll be fantastic.
That'll be good.
We've got more to talk next week. So thanks a lot from all of us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Love it.